Well, hello, everybody. Guess what time it is? It's time for the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Woo-hoo-hoo! If
Woo!
you're welcome,
We're
Jen.
so happy.
Welcome. So I want to thank everybody who is out there with us right now for joining us. We've got some great questions to cover on the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. But before we get into that, I just want to turn this over to Jen, have her talk about herself a little bit because she's got so much to offer. She's an amazing coach, and I want you to know more about her. So talk about yourself there, Missy.
Thank you. Thank you to my amazing host, my amazing co-host. So hi, everyone. In case you don't know me, I'm Jen Fontanilla. I'm a certified money coach, author, and speaker, also founder and CEO of Queen Up Life, where I'm dedicated and committed to helping women build and create their ultimate life without having to worry about money by gaining clarity, hope, and confidence, and pretty much just helping you get your money right. And so that's what I do. So I'm so happy to be here. And I would love for you all to hear more about my amazing co-host. I'm pointing like you're right next to me. Oh, this way. Dr. Summer Watson, please tell everybody who you are and how amazing you are.
Oh my gosh. First of all, thank you so much for sharing who you are, what you do, and offering your time, effort, and energy to be on the Life, Love, and Show with and Money Show with me, because it is so important. I find that it's so important to give back to our community. And so we have found a way to do that by giving a free half an hour of coaching every Thursday. Woo, woo, woo! Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
So my name is Dr. Summer Watson. I have been in the health and human services field for years. I have a master's in human services. I've worked in the field. So I have practical experience. I also have a doctorate in clinical psychology. Like Jen, I am also an author. I am a documentary film producer. I am a seminar producer and a host. I have a podcast with the Core Women podcast. It's a company that I own. It is a coaching company which helps you produce a life that you love. So there's what I do. Woo, woo, woo.
Wow. You guys are in for a treat. And before we continue, you guys hit that share button. Who needs to hear this? Share this, and what if there's something that Dr. Summer, you guys, do you realize how amazing I keep pointing the wrong way, this way. You realize how amazing she is. And so you're in for a treat. And so hit that share button below for anybody you feel needs to hear that. And even if they don't think they need to hear it, they need to hear it. So hit that share button.
Hit the share button, #replay. This will go on YouTube. So let me just tell you this. So if you've missed this live broadcast, you can watch this again, #replay on our YouTube page at our Life, Love, and Money with Summer and Jen YouTube page. We also are broadcasting live here on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube right now. So if you have questions, please DM your questions to our Life, Love, and Money pages with Summer and Jen on Facebook and Twitter. You can also DM your questions to Core Women or to Jen Money Coach on Instagram. So let's get right into this because we've got some pretty interesting questions today that have been submitted. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, let's do this. So the first question is, if a couple is in a volatile, loveless marriage or relationship, should they stay together just for the sake of the children? This is heavy stuff, right? And some people might say, oh, I just get out of that marriage. I just do this. Well, we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to support you through the changes and the transitions that you're making, right? So with that said, there's a caveat to that. I will say that if you are in an abusive relationship or a relationship that has to deal with abuse, addiction, serial infidelity, that I would say would be cases where you get yourself and your children to safe and healthy environments. Definitely. Now, let's go back to the question, because there are many things in a relationship that deal with, the question is it really about the children? Is it really about the children, or is it really about what your fears are? So These are questions that I want you to think about, questions that I want you to ask yourself. Is this based on your own fears, your own conflicts in your marriage? Are you afraid to move on? Are you worried about your finances if you were to separate from this other person? Are you willing to stay in a marriage and blame your partner for every conflict or issue? Again, I'm going over questions to stimulate thought, to stimulate things that you might take action on, because this really is incumbent upon you, and you to make change. Okay. So many times people perceive divorce as failure and stay in that because of that mindset and how we've been conditioned, right? Conditioned about marriage because of that idea of, oh, we have failed ourselves, we have failed the other person, we have failed our family. So again, go back to what is really happening here. What are your fears? What is your misconception potentially? Determine what you're willing to accept or not accept. And let me take this to a place where this is really interesting. I had a conversation with my grandmother who has now passed away. She was old school, and she was raised with 5 sisters. She came from Oklahoma to California. They had some tough times. And she knew the type of relationship when she married my grandfather, the type of relationship she got into. And she told me, Summer, you have to realize or accept, if you're going to stay in a relationship, accept certain factors about that relationship or move on. This is your opportunity to evaluate what your boundaries are. Evaluate what you are willing to accept or not accept in a relationship. It is also your opportunity to see if your partner is willing to work with you in this relationship and what that means. And when you have that discussion, get specific. Be really specific about what you both are willing to do. Have that talk. Now, talk to your partner and see if he or she is willing to work on that relationship. Think about as you're thinking, am I staying in this relationship just for my kids? What are you modeling for them? What in fact are you modeling in this relationship for them? Modeling in relation to a relationship. Is this a healthy, constructive marriage? First and foremost, relationship, friendship. Now, if this is conflictual, if this is loveless, if there is a lot of strife, I would say if you're willing to talk it out, go get some help. If you're not, that's your determination. This is difficult. This is a difficult situation. But if you see, when I've asked these questions, do these questions really have to do with your children, or do they have to do with you specifically? They have to deal with you, more so with you. So with that said, consider that divorce, thinking about divorce, staying in a marriage because of children is a major life decision. And with that comes transition. This is not a decision to be taken lightly. Furthermore, what's important is how you cope through whatever decision you make and how you choose to have this decision impact your life as well as your children's. You are the best model for them, and now how they perceive relationships, not just intimate relationships, but relationships with friends, relationships with family, relationships with others, business. You are that model. So what are you doing? What are you modeling for them right now? And something that we touched on earlier, because we also go live on IG at 11 a.m. on the Core Women page Pacific time and 2 p.m. Eastern time on the Instagram page, on the Core Women Instagram page. So what we mentioned earlier there is it's kind of like throwing that pebble into the water, and you see those concentric circles, one circle after another, growing and growing out. And what that means is when you make these decisions and when you're modeling, that's going to impact your children, your family, your community. So consider what you're modeling for your children by staying in a relationship or getting out of the relationship. That is up to you. So those are my tips. Those are some things to think about. So if in fact, and the last thing I want to put out there is if in fact you're having some challenges and you've tried these other steps, it's okay to seek professional guidance, to seek support and help. So that can also be a consideration when you're going through something this difficult. Jan, any words?
Yes, amazing, amazing advice. And I have heard this question over the years, and I can personally relate to it. You know, I was in a toxic relationship myself, and I have thought about these things, and it really does come to you. You have to take ownership and accountability and really ask yourself these things. It's not always about the other person. Yes, of course, they contribute to the situation, but it's also you. You are also saying, yes, I will stay in this. Yes, I choose to be in this. And so you can't really just always blame the other person. But more important than that, what are you modeling? And I think what you said, Summer, is so important when it comes to the modeling, because when you're modeling and people, I want to reiterate, you know, we may think that, we put on this happy face. We think that we're okay, or we want to be in denial, or we think that we can pull it off. No, your kids know there's something wrong. There's an energy. There's this energy that is around you that is so much bigger than the face that you're putting on. And what is kind of scary about the modeling thing is that you have to realize your children can possibly grow up thinking, well, this is normal. This is okay. Yeah. And we don't want that for our children. You know, I have a 9-year-old son. I don't want him to think that me staying in a situation that's not healthy, or staying in a situation where he can clearly see I'm not happy. Why would I do that? Because then he's going to grow up thinking like, well, that's how my mom did it. Because that's what we do. That's what we do. I mean, even in money coaching, we follow what our parents have shown us in any part of our life. And so modeling is such a huge, huge thing to really, really think about. So thank you for your wisdom.
Absolutely. And thank you for your wisdom, because you have practical wisdom. You've been through it. You know what it feels like. You know the energy that is vibrating when you're going through something this challenging and something this difficult. This is not an easy decision to make. Again, I go back to 3 things though. If you're in a relationship where it is detrimental because there is abuse, there is addiction, there's severe serial infidelity, I want you to get yourself and your children to a safe and healthy environment. Yes, definitely. But when we're talking about, should I stay in a marriage because of the children, go back, look at the replay on YouTube at the Life, Love, and Money page with Summer and Jen on our YouTube page. Go back and look at some of the suggestions. This is a transition. This is difficult. This isn't an easy decision to make at all. So some people might say, oh yeah, I totally get out of that, and be kind of flippant about that. But this is layered. This is something it deals with fear, it deals with courage, it deals with boundaries, it deals with how you communicate it deals with your own relationship issues and what you might take from one relationship to the next relationship. So again, it is really working on oneself to identify what's going to be in the best interest for me and for me. Knowing what how you value yourself, your own values, your own beliefs. Some people, and I'll give you an example, some people get into relationships really early and they're young, right? And so we change over time, and we hope that we can grow together. We do things where we hope that we can continue to grow, right? As a couple, as a relationship, as an entity. And when you find that maybe that's not happening, and you've done the work and you've sought the additional help, then it might be time to work on yourself and consider how you might separate or part from this relationship. Because again, it's about your happiness. It's about your well-being. It's about what you're modeling for your kids. It's about you taking care of yourself and how your next relationship is going to be better and stronger because of the work you've done on yourself.
Oh, yes. I love how you just ended with that, because it just reiterates the responsibility that we need to take upon ourselves. And,
right.
I did want to also add, if you have a friend that's going through that, we also have to have some grace, because it's very easy for us to think like, I can't believe how stupid they are. I can't believe she won't leave him, or he won't leave her.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. We have to remember, and I have to remind myself this too. We have to remember, they're not in just a logical situation. They're in a very emotional situation. And it's not always easy to just leave. That
Right.
person knows it's not good, but there's a lot of emotional ties. And when there's children involved, you start thinking about all these things like, oh, but that's their dad or that's their mom, and I want to make it work. And we all have these dreams and goals of making things work and being a family. But, at some point we have to also take a step back. And like what Summer said, if it is abusive, we are not advocating for you to stay. You definitely need to get the help. But so you have to have some discernment, get some clarity around your situation, which is why you absolutely need to get help, because we cannot think logically when we're in the situation. And I love this quote from Les Brown. He's like, you can't see the picture if you're inside the frame. So
Very nice.
yeah, it's very difficult for some people when we're in this situation. It's bad. We ain't dumb. We know it's bad, but it is so hard to leave because there's so many emotional ties. So just have some grace and be there for your friend, or even if it's you, if that's in that situation. But at some point, you have to take responsibility for your sake and your children's sake.
And I think what you offered in regards to the levels and the elements that play a part in this type of decision making, it is something that is very emotional. You can think practically about it too. There are some people that think just solely practically about it. Like, okay, it comes down to money, it comes down to home, it comes down to shelter, it comes to, making sure that there's a safe place for my kids to reside. I don't want to switch out their schools. So people become very practical, they become emotional, they find that they get caught up maybe in the emotions. So many times, this is why coaching is so great, because we can give you some tips, and then it's up to you to ask yourself the question, do the work, and apply the tips.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
So let's move on to our second question, because it's a goodie, and I want to make sure we get this covered today. So, second question is, I want to get a credit card, but before I do, what tips might you give about getting credit cards, interest rates, and best ways to use them?
Yes, more credit questions. Obviously, there's a running theme. We've had this for a few weeks now. So it's actually really good feedback for me to see what people are focused on. So thank you for whoever submitted this question. And yes, there are some things that you definitely want to consider when you are about to get a credit card. What are the things that you need to know? And at the end of the day, it basically boils down to this. Understand the rules of engagement. Understand the rules of what you are getting involved with. And understand this. The first thing is that a credit card is neither bad nor good. It is a tool. It's something we use. It's something that we use as a transaction. We're not going to get into the argument of like you should never have one, because we will talk about a little bit about that towards the end of this particular topic. But credit cards, depending on how you use it, it will either build or break your credit. So you have to understand that. This is something you have to be extremely responsible with. Okay, so it can either build or destroy your credit depending on how you engage with it and what you do with it. The second thing that you need to understand is that as a beginner, meaning this is the first time you're looking into getting involved with it kind of sounds like I'm talking about a relationship. And earlier I said, basically you are getting involved in a relationship with the credit card company. And in the beginning, when you're new to this relationship, you have to prove yourself before they can build trust and understand that, hey, you pay on time. Meaning, like, do you show up on time for your dates? Trust me,
Yeah.
we judge. If you are late to a date, that is saying a lot about you. And this is no different. If you are late in your payments, it's the same thing. Okay, well, they were late last month. Let's see how they do again. Are you going to become a chronic late payer? So those types of things, when you are good, you always pay on time. You pay off the full balance. You do all the right things. They start to trust you. They start to open up and they're like, hey, we'll offer you more credit. We can lower the interest rate. And as you become more seasoned and you're showing responsibility, this is where you get the better offers. And again, this is not arguing. We can talk about this at another time. It's not arguing whether they're good or bad, but you can start getting cash back. I think I will say this. I know people that are extremely wealthy and they know how to use credit cards as a wealth building tool. You either get cash back, you get free miles on airlines. I mean, if you know how to be responsible, there are many ways that you can use these to your advantage. You're still going to buy the thing, whatever it is. But when you understand the rules, you're going to hear me say that a lot. When you understand the rules, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be that destroys and ruins your life. The problem that you see out there when you see people complaining about it is because they didn't understand what they were getting involved with. This is why they freaking hate credit cards. This is why they say they hate they swear against it, is because they didn't understand the rules. They didn't play the game right, and they got into a horrible situation and predicament, and they're in and over their heads with debt. Of course, anybody that's going through that is going to say bad things about it, but it is a completely different conversation when you talk to the people like, I got a free trip to Fiji because I got this on points from my credit card company, or I got my flight for free because I use this credit card. It's a completely different conversation. So the next thing I would say is that understand the rates and fees. Whether this card has an annual fee, some do. For example, American Express. They have an annual fee to use their card, and many of them don't. So why do they have that? Because they have amazing member benefits. They have incredible customer service. So people that actually have an Amex card love it, okay? But you have to pay attention. Are there annual fees? It's not a good or bad thing. What is it going to do for you? Does that fit your situation? And some may not have an annual fee. The other fee that you need to pay attention to is the APR, which is the annual percentage rate. That is the percentage rate at which you're borrowing the money if the balance carries over to the next month. Okay, so if you don't pay the credit card off in full before the next payment that's due, there's a percentage that gets charged. You need to know what that percentage is. The other thing that you need to make sure of, you understand how much is the late fee. First off, let me just tell you this. You don't even need to know what that fee is as long as you're just never late. Just don't be late, and then you won't have to worry about that fee. Just always pay on time. So what happens is there's a grace period, 15 days typically from the 1st to the 15th. And after that, you send in that payment on the 16th of the month, you will probably be hit with a late fee. And I've seen it at 35. I'm sure there's some that are higher. That is a waste of money. This is why you have to pay attention to percentage rates, all these different things, because those are money leaks in your cash flow. Okay, so if you understand where you're losing money, it's in fees, it's in interest rates. These are leaks that you need to plug up and make sure that you don't even have these holes in your whole situation. And then lastly, this is not very common, but then foreign transaction fees. If you buy something outside of the United States, if you're here in the US, if you buy something that's foreign, it could be an extra 3%. Okay, because anyways, we're not going to get to that, but there's an extra 3%. So just understand how much things cost and what are the fees and penalties and things like that. Then the last thing I will say that's really, really important is to make sure that you are paying attention to your credit utilization ratio. And what that number is typically you want to make sure you're under 30%. So what does that mean? If your credit card has a limit of $2,000, for example, we're not saying, you ever hear the term like max out my credit card? Oh, I maxed out my credit card. That means they have probably hit $2,000. They have spent up to $2,000 and they're carrying that balance and they're paying the minimum so that keeps carrying over and over to the next few months. And the balance is not really being chipped away at. So if it's 30%, that means you want to keep it under $600. Now, it doesn't matter if you're paying off the balance every month, but if you're carrying this balance over to the next subsequent months, be careful, because now what the credit card company sees is like, wait a minute, they are like, their utilization is at like 98%. That looks bad. And then what ends up happening is your credit report, your FICO score, your credit score takes a hit and it goes down, down, down. And how does that affect you? If you want to buy things in the future, you're going to get a pretty crappy rate depending on how low down the credit scoring model you're going. So those are things that you really, really should remember. Basically, know the rules, know the fees, know the penalties, know what you're getting involved with, and keep that utilization ratio low if you're going to carry that balance.
Oh my goodness. What amazing tips. There were so many tips. So if you had the opportunity, check out the comments here too, because we are posting the comments, we are listing them so that you have the tips as we go through. As Jen suggests, look at A, B, and C here. There are so many things to look at in regards to understanding your credit, your relationship with credit, your APR, your staying under 30% of your usage rate, not maxing out your cards. It's like dating that credit card,
Yeah. Some of y'all need to break up with their credit card.
And again, you're right. Sometimes even me, Jen, when I go on a trip, so say for instance, at the end of every year around December, I go on a long trip, 2 to 3 weeks. I leave the country with my husband, clear my head, take a break, and I use 2 different credit cards. And I use these credit cards because of the foreign transaction fees. There are none. And so when I use these cards, I actually call my banks and I say, hey, because I don't want to read those like long, as you said, accordions.
Oh my gosh.
Like inserts that come with your credit card. You're like, oh my gosh. And you're picking up your magnifying glass and you're like, I can barely read that.
And then you just don't read it.
You don't. Exactly. So I actually pick up the phone and I call my bank and I say, hey, what are your foreign transaction fees? And as we had discussed earlier on our previous live, you also talked about potentially picking up the phone when you have established credit with your credit cards and a good relationship. You can sometimes pick up that phone and say, hey, can you lower my interest rate? Is that a possibility? And let's talk a little bit more about that and how you would go through that procedure.
Yeah. So if you feel like you've been on time, you've been making payments consistently, you're never late, and you've demonstrated this over, several months, maybe 6 months to a year, you can actually call the credit card company like, hey, do you have any offers? Is there any possibility of you lowering my rate? And I've done that. I've been put on hold. They're like, yeah, actually. And sometimes they say no. But there was one card, Barclay MasterCard, and then they said, yeah, we can actually offer you, and I think it was like 1.2% lower.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, so the fact that they were even going to be able to offer, but here's the thing, it's always a no if you don't ask.
Yes.
Always a no if you don't ask. So ask, hey, it's always going to be a no if you don't ask, and so you never know it's going to help you out. But of course, you have to be realistic. Ask yourself if you've been good, if you've been on time, if you all these things, and they can look it up for you, and you just never know. Let's try it.
Absolutely. Well, I absolutely love that because that's an important tip. We forget to actually get on the phone and we forget to call. We forget to call people. We forget to call, and everybody wants to do things online, and that's great. But sometimes that relationship and talking about that relationship you've created with your creditor, that relationship you've created with the use of your credit cards makes all the difference when you're talking to another human being and they're looking at that history and saying, you know what? You've done really well. You've actually paid off your bills. You've never had a late charge fee. You've never, so when you're talking about this with a human being, they'll look at what they can offer you potentially and say, yeah, you know what? We can actually do that for you. So
be nice and be nice to that customer service person. I think it's crazy when people yell at these customer service people because when they say, let me put you on hold and talk to their manager, there's no manager. Let me tell you, there ain't no manager because you are being an a-hole to them or something. You have to be, you guys, and I'm going to take a minute on this. You have to realize the people, and this even goes for restaurants, the people that you are asking to help you, it behooves you to be nice and respectful. Yeah. You're trying to ask them to do you a favor and you're going to be mean on the phone. Come on now, that is not common sense. Anyways, I'm done with that. We can carry on.
Well, it makes me think of this movie called Waiting that I saw a long time ago.
Oh my gosh. I can think of all these disgusting scenes. Yeah.
I know, right? So come on. When you're dealing with human beings, just remember how you want to be treated, how you want to be talked to, how you want to engage with people. And it's also a good model, out there for others, to see how you can effectively communicate and translate what your needs are. Because once you do that, I think you get a lot further with the person on the other end of that phone. So with that said, we have covered, it's been 30 minutes. So what we're going to do at this point is we decided we're going to leave you with some nuggets of wisdom as we close out the show each week. And so, Jen, I'd like to turn it over to you and maybe have you leave your words of wisdom, your nuggets of wisdom for today's show.
Yeah, I just want to impart on you all to just remember to say yes to yourself. I think so often we're used to being, sacrificing, always saying yes and doing everything for everybody else. And we forget about our needs and stop thinking that if you're going to take care of yourself, you're going to practice self-care. It is not a selfish thing. In fact, I think most of us do not do it enough. So I just want to say my nugget for the day is that have the answers for yourself and say yes to yourself, because when you say yes to yourself, you say yes to your goals and dreams and the things that you want to be able to do to live your best life. So that's my nugget. How about you, Summer? Please share with everyone what yours is.
Oh, well, I loved what you just said. Say yes to your goals and dreams. Wow, that is perfection. I love that. So thank you for offering those words of wisdom, that nugget for today. Mine would be know that life isn't pristine. It's not perfect. Know that it is not perfect. And it's okay that life isn't that clean, isn't that perfect, isn't that pristine, because we have to allow ourselves some missteps. When we do that and we're okay with that, we actually bring that wisdom forward with us. That wisdom helps us become more resilient, helps us maneuver through life, and also shows maybe our children and those in community that it's okay to have a misstep now and again. We learn from that. We become stronger. We become more resilient. We learn lessons from that. And that is gain wisdom. So when somebody says, oh, you've just failed, well, that's not wholly true. That's not wholly true, because we actually have learned something. Once you get back up, you can actually take a glance back and see what you've learned from that misstep. So have some grace. Understand that life isn't that clean. It's a little messy, and that it's okay that you have a misstep every now and again. That's okay.
Beautiful. Absolutely. I think that's just perfect advice. I think we just get so caught up in perfectionism, and that's just that. I'm sorry, break it to you. We all live on planet Earth.
Right.
And that just doesn't exist here. So have some grace, like she said.
And furthermore, we're human. So humans err, and that's just natural. That's just organic. That happens in the process of life. So have some grace with yourself and know it's okay. Learn from those missteps. Get back up and take a glance back and see the wisdom that you've gained from it. So thank you so much for joining Jen and I on the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Remember, tell your friends about the show. We're here every Thursday. We want your questions. DM your questions. Direct message your questions to us on the Life, Love, and Money Show pages with Summer and Jen on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Contact us. Contact Core Women. Contact Jen, the Money Coach. We want to hear from you. We want to answer your questions. Why? Because we're offering this because it's a half an hour of free coaching for you to help support you. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. And if you did not get a chance to watch this today, please go check it out on YouTube. Share it with your friends. #replay. The Life, Love, and Money Show. Thank you so much. And we'll see you here Thursday next week, every week. Ciao. Thank you, Jen.
Everyone. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Dr. Summer Watson is the owner of the production and coaching company Core Women, LLC, is a doctor of psychology, has a depth of experience working in both for-profit and nonprofit in human services and mental health, is a professional coach, seminar host, documentary film producer, and an author. Jen Fontanilla is a former financial advisor and now a certified money coach, speaker, and has published 6 books. She has worked with organizations such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, and the U.S. Air Force. She loves working with women and helps them master their money and mindset to empower them to build the ultimate life without worrying about money. Join Summer and Jen every week as they go live on the Life, Love, and Money Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn.